welcome back to Women Making Moves, where we celebrate the moves that women are making. My name is Amy Pons, founder of Unlock the Magic Coaching, Healing, and Magic School. I'm joined today with Sandhya Sudhakar. Sandhya is a certified coach, Enneagram practitioner, speaker, facilitator, the founder of Self at Work, and the host of the Working Your Way podcast. She takes a trauma-informed, inclusive approach to leadership development and team building, focused on showing up authentically and cultivating a sense of belonging in the workplace. Through Self at Work, Sandhya helps leaders build meaningful connections with themselves, their teams, and their work so that they can achieve success in a more sustainable way. Prior to starting Self at Work, Sandhya built a successful career in sales and marketing for 13 years at Procter & Gamble, where she earned awards for game-changing strategy and excellence in managing others. Following this time, Sandhya held multiple leadership roles where she guided teams through 2 acquisitions in less than 3 years. Her current work is inspired by the highs and lows of the employee experience during these massive changes and the profound impact her own leaders had on her during this time. Sandhya grew up in the Midwest USA, the daughter of Indian immigrants. She started Self at Work after a sabbatical centered on self-exploration and redefining success on her own terms. She's a lifelong learner, design enthusiast, curious traveler, and work-in-progress plant person. Sandhya earned a BS in business from Indiana University Kelley School of Business and an MS certificate in learning and organizational change and coaching certification from Northwestern University. She also holds a certified narrative Enneagram practitioner from the Narrative Enneagram and is certified in the Leadership Circle Profile 360-degree assessment. Sandhya, welcome.
Thank you. That was quite quite the thing. It's always so interesting to sit and listen to the things that you have in your biography. And yeah, those are some of the things that I am.
It's a lot of stuff.
I'm excited to be here.
No, I know. I mean, I play with my bio quite a bit, and depending on where I am in my cycle is my favorite part of responding. And sometimes, seriously, I hate the question, what do you do? And that's my personal cross to bear probably, and more work inside me. But we're so much more than doing. And I know you get that, but we're on a fever pitch of humanity right now. I just want to burn that question to the ground.
I mean, I think that's a very valid place to be in this moment. And for me, I'm in like a little bit of a quiet internal moment before I believe a lot of stuff is going to happen this year. And so it's an interesting experience to say, like, yes, I do have all of those qualifications. And, there are days where we feel more connected to them and less connected to them. And so, it goes back, who I am doesn't change, even when what I'm outputting into the world might look a little bit different or might be kind of non-existent right now. Like, that's okay. I'm still all those things and I still have all those qualifications and I still believe all those things and, they're all important to me. So.
And I love the duality of them. So yes, they matter and they don't fucking matter. Do you vibe with that at all?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, because I also think we're just always evolving and we get to choose how we want to show up in this world. And I think all of our experiences and everything that we do that leads up to this moment in time informs that, but I don't think that it makes us who we are.
Yeah. And this has been a beautiful unlearning for me personally, is taking all that I've quote unquote read or learned or been tested on my entire life in the form of standardized testing and things like that. Of course, they've shaped me, and we're in such an interesting moment of this exact space and time where I believe on the soul plane, we all chose to be here at this exact moment, whether we understand that fully or not. And that it's less about what we learned on paper right now, and it's more about what we know in our bones. And that's like, people are like, wait, what? And even understanding how to return to that or access that point in our bones is both, it can be a lot of work, and also not even understanding where or how to start to access it is probably can be a daunting thing right now. Well, welcome. How long have we known each other now? It's been a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to say maybe last summer we might have first come across each other.
Yeah. And I stepped away from FPC again because my calendar just got insane. And I'm like, okay, something's got to give. And so that was the thing right now that gave. But I love the work that FPC is always putting out. Becky Mollenkamp, shout out, and making sure that the podcasters that are, I would say, more important than any celebrities right now are getting amplified. So
yeah, I think it's a great group of kind of aligned people, shared values, all the things that people say about communities, but a lot of people who are trying to activate change in the world. So I appreciate it a lot.
I do too. Feminist Podcasters Collective. Go check it out, y'all. So, Sandhya, what's on your heart today?
Oh my gosh, so much. I'm in the midst of shedding, cleaning out, simplifying, and getting ready for a really big and important and audacious year. And so I chose a word of the year for 2026. For me, it's audacity. And I'm seeing the ways that that plays out in males that I have, visibility to in ways that are harmful to others. And then the way that I choose to think about audacity is like unapologetic. I am a very practical person. I always have been. And can I like release the ways that that keeps my dreams practical? And so, how can I be more audacious? How can I care less about what people might think of me, how I'm perceived, avoiding rejection, all the things. So that is what's on my
Oh.
heart in life and in business.
Ooh. So I have this shirt in my store that says, "May you have the audacity to have audacity." It's the audacity to shine your light so that others can shine their light, and understanding that your light doesn't and shouldn't impede the light of others.
Yes, to me, it's like being unapologetic and being harmful have no intersection whatsoever. And we
Mm.
see all the time where those they do intersect in a terrible way. But like for me, it's all about how do I just start playing bigger, be less practical. Yeah, dream bigger.
I am proudly audacious. And I would say that it's not always fun and it's not always met with joy. I'm a truth teller, and I'm also getting consistent messaging from spirit or my guides to poke the bear. Well, you can imagine how that goes a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I've had a recent run-in as well with males in my life, and I was so direct, not a bitch. I said, I'm having trouble understanding you right now. Do you mind using more of your words rather than facial expressions and sounds to convey what you're trying to tell me? Ooh. Let me pause. How do you think that went?
I think it did not go well. I think you probably got a reaction akin to that of a toddler.
Um,
Because when you can't use your words in the first place, you probably don't know how to respond versus react.
and could I have used different framing? Sure, but like that's what was feeling. That's what was like on my
and
heart.
and that was what was happening, right? It was truth, it was
I'm like,
honesty, it was directness.
and I could have been like an asshole and been like, okay, use your words. I didn't do that. I would literally explain it like that. And
Yeah.
oh yeah, it didn't go well. I was called every name in the book, including narcissist. I'm like, wait, what? And I just kind of walked away from the situation because it wasn't going to be conducive or at all beneficial to me any longer. So I was just like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
out. That's the discernment that you get to have. And
Yeah.
I get it. It's not going to be fun or comfortable, especially if it's someone you love or that someone that you share a space with or that you what have you. I was about to say that you have to do business with, but I'm like, ooh, let's challenge that. Do you have to? Do you
Right.
have to? Must you? And who
Yeah.
says? You could be like, okay, my mortgage. Here's I want your thoughts on this specifically. Here's the thing, if you force yourself to forsake yourself, let's say to pay a mortgage, what ends up happening?
I think the answer to this question is nuanced. And the reason that I say that is because do I believe self abandonment or working with people where our values don't align or the things that drain us? Like, do I think that that's good? No. I think that there is always a trade off. I think that when we're doing work with people that are draining us, are sucking the life of us, are making us feel like less of ourselves, there's an impact to us. And the security of the money that you get from a client might actually be the safety that you need more than kind of that connectedness to yourself. I think it's constantly like recalibrating and understanding what is going to make you feel safe in this moment. Like which trade-off are you willing to make in the short term, not in the long term, not forever, right? And so I think it becomes for me it's one of those things that feels like, let's look at the whole picture and evaluate all of the things that might be going on. Because when we pull the rug out from under ourselves in a resource standpoint, from a self-preservation standpoint, like that could actually have other effects versus I can recover from this feeling of self-abandonment in a working relationship. And this is my practicality here, right? Like, I think anytime we're making a decision in business, in relationships, and whatever, we have to weigh the trade-offs. And so, like, I have left a contracting relationship where I felt disrespected or undervalued. And it got to the point where the way that it was draining me was not worth the money that I was making. And this was early in my business where I didn't have a lot of consistent income. And so I did need that foundation. And so I think, am I ever going to tell somebody that I'm pro self-abandonment? Absolutely not, because I've been in those situations, whether it was in corporate, whether it's in relationships where I am slowly making myself smaller. I think that does long-term damage to a person. I think those are the things that lead to burnout. We drain our energy, we're overgiving, we're getting more and more disconnected from ourselves, and that requires some healing and some reconnection afterwards. But each person, each individual has different needs and different foundations for safety, whether it's self-preservation of resources, whether it's connectedness and belonging, whether it's relational or resource aligned. We need to kind of understand in ourselves, what is the trade-off I'm willing to make short term? And then what is the thing I'm going to do long term to make sure that I'm not doing damage internally to myself by self-abandoning?
I think what's hard, and I'm personally speaking of a specific experience in my first year of business where I took on a client I knew wasn't a good fit. I knew it. And it was a several month commitment. And at the time, I was like, yeah, but I need X, Y, and Z. So I did it. And for that entire time, it was just so much of me forsaking myself. And so I hear you on short term, long term, but it did do a little bit of something to me. And I feel it, the energy of me feeling beholden to that particular experience kept me from getting higher vibe
Yes.
experiences
Yes.
in like early on in my business. So it was like, yes, nuanced. And I think the hard part is that it's having that faith and commitment to yourself that the higher vibe experiences or even like the bigger ticket, whatever, what have you, will come if you give up the lower vibe thing. But it's just hard to have that trust, I think.
Yeah. And I think it's, I absolutely agree with you on that, is that every time we do something that is not aligned with us, like, we're possibly giving up the opportunity to see something else come along that could be much better for us. And there's a level of privilege that the majority of us live with, where it's like, if I can trust myself and take this leap of faith, and I have safety nets in the world, like people in my life that, if I all of a sudden couldn't pay my mortgage, I could live with, or, things like that too. So I always want to hold the reality that there is a limit to when we can say no to money in order to, like, say yes to ourselves. And ultimately, I will always be an advocate for people to believe in themselves and to do what they know they're meant to be on this world, on this earth, to do, and work with people that perpetuate the good in what they do, and lift them up and make them see themselves in their, true light.
Yeah. I personally feel there is literally limitless opportunities to earn not just money, but earn wellness, earn well-being, earn peace. And it's not suggesting that we have to earn it. Some of these are our
Right.
birthright. And I'm not trying to be rose-colored glasses and that everything's amazing. I'm just suggesting that the very systems that keep us under a thumb are the ones that we're meant to question. And in some cases, that includes our very physical well-being. And again, we're not supported or allowed to question that. It's just always been like, you've got to, you have to feel beholden. And that's part of the whole and learning. So you get to have fun with it if you can.
Yeah.
I say that knowing that people in the world are really just not okay and they feel beholden and they feel like they have absolutely no other choices. All of it gets to be true at once. And do the best you can. Find your own okayness every single moment. That's really the ask.
Yeah. No,
So,
I agree.
hmm. What moves are you excited to be making? What's coming up for you?
I am this year I'm getting into speaking more, which like I kind of put a little bit on the back burner, but for me, keynote speaking or speaking to groups has been a really cool kind of like creative process and creative outlet for me. It's a way that I process my past and make connections and find metaphors and engage that storytelling muscle that I will always be working on. So I'm excited about that. And then the other piece, as I think about simplifying my life, I'm also simplifying what is it that I want to be talking about in the world, especially when it comes to my work with teams using the Enneagram. And I have kind of a framework that I have narrowed in on that's really all about what are the types of problems that high achieving leaders sense on their team and how are they maybe not seeing them clearly. They might be seeing them as a them problem and not as an us problem. And so really like helping teams diagnose what's really going on here, getting in, rolling up my sleeves with them, understanding them, mapping out the team, putting systems and structures in place. But like that's one kind of offering that I have. As I've started my business in the first couple of years, it's been very much like I can do anything that someone wants to come and hire me for. And now it's like, this is what I do. I know I'm excellent at it and bring a lot of value and enjoy the work. And therefore, it's like, that is the lane I'm going in. I'm just going to go like 100 miles an hour in the one lane that I know is is a really great alignment of what I can bring to the table and what can get me paid.
Yeah. Ooh, what can get you paid? Nice. What are you finding? Like what I mean, I'm guessing you wouldn't take on this type of client, but I'm seeing out in the wild workplaces that have gotten super unabashed about not wanting women and people of color in the workplace. I'm guessing you wouldn't take on that client that is that, but what's your thoughts on that?
There is a backlash. I think we all kind of knew it was coming and maybe weren't able to anticipate just how far it would go. I think that any workplace that wants to believe that diversity is not a competitive advantage is not going to do well. So, the data is there for the ones that understand that. And those are the clients that I choose to work with. I think one thing that I appreciate is that I do work with a lot of leaders who are very assertive types. They're very fast moving, high achieving. Are they perfect people? No, but they are well intended. And so I think closing that gap between their intentions and how they're behaving by like helping them bring some awareness to their behaviors is like something that I feel really strongly about. And there's a limit to that.
So the people, the leaders that you're talking about, I consider true leaders. And here's what I feel is the magic. When I talk about unlocking the magic, it's remembering that you're a soul having a human experience. And when you can understand the intersection of both, that's the magic of life. That's what I feel. And I've seen more in the workplace of the people that don't get it, that are actually the ones that you wouldn't serve. And I'm surprised. I'm actually pleasantly surprised to hear that there are those good intended people out there because I just didn't see it in my 20 years of corporate.
Yeah. I think, and this is part of the conversation that we had before. It's like we live in systems. Like there's no denying it, right? We live in the system of our country and our economy and all these things. And so it is very easy to get caught up in that being all that's important, right? Delivering business results, like burning people out, achieving more, getting a promotion, earning more, getting a big bonus, right? Like all of those things, it's like quite easy, I think, I believe, to like get into the mentality of that and forget about the other things. And they're still humans at home, they still go home to their kids and they do other things. And so I feel very strongly that like I am the right person to help leaders who have those good intentions, but also still want to achieve all those things. But I don't want to be in the system with them. Like I don't want to be in the company with them doing it or working for them or working alongside of them. I want to be looking from the outside in so that I can like provide that perspective. And that's been some of my favorite work with a company that I've been working with for like 3.5 years, where it's like I can be their kind of like team coach. I can be their advisor. I can tell them the truth, right? I can be the one that says, hey, you're being an asshole And I think you're doing it for this reason, but here's the impact of it. And so if you change that thing, you're going to get more out of your people.
That's what I see at some point. I would be someone's in-house coach where I would come along with the leaders to different meetings and we'd have a debrief right after and be like, help me understand how you think that went
Yeah.
and give a different perspective. Because again, from my experience in corporate, no one was double backing with those people after meetings to be like, do you know that that was damaging? Do you know that was
Yeah.
harmful? And to have a pulse of both. The higher you go in an organization, the less accountable you are for how you treat your people because your bosses are not in those meetings or like they're never seeing your day to
Right.
day. So I feel like it needs to happen on that level. And how amazing would it be for leaders to be like, I think I'm coming off badly. I think I need some help here. Woo, that would be amazing.
Yeah. And I work with some of them. Like that's the thing
That's
that
awesome.
like
That's awesome.
let me restore your faith, right? In corporate humanity, that there are people like that. And I have worked with many of them where they're like, I know that this isn't going well, but I don't know what to do differently. And like, come in, tell me what you see, what's going on. I want my people to not be so anxious all the time, or I want them to bring more ideas to the table. Or I want them to whatever. And sometimes it comes out as my team's not taking ownership and they're just, following orders. And I'm like, well, let's look at your behavior and how that might be impacting that. Right. And so when I was saying before, I think it's easy to get tunnel vision on the promotions and the bonuses and the results and the whatever, and like kind of forget about the people. It made me think of, I've said this before and I will say it over and over again. We talked Enneagram. So you understand the Enneagram type 3 is the achiever. It's the performer. It's the type that wants to be successful, be seen as successful. They're image conscious. They avoid shame. And that is the culture. It's like American culture is like an Enneagram type 3 country culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this country system, workplace that we are in, whether we're tangential to it or actually it rewards you for ignoring what is important to you and what your own goals and ambitions are. And it rewards you for taking on the ambitions of someone else, a company, an owner of a company, a whatever, and working harder, doing more, achieving more. And so when I say it's easy for that to happen, it's not an excuse, but it's like our entire structure is built around that being incentivized. And unless you can kind of like break out of the matrix, right? And see like, hey, wait, I have my own goals and ambitions and I don't want these anymore, and build
Which I
something for
have now.
yourself.
Yeah,
Right. Which you have done, which I have
which
done,
which I have now.
it's
And
hard.
for those listening, if you didn't catch Sandhya's and our episode together on her podcast, I'm a 3. Well, I call myself a 3 for 9, but like bulk of my life was 3. And I did constantly get that feedback in corporate. It's wild. I was too direct. I was too much. And yet I was a mama bear for my team. I just remember coming home to my husband after every year in review, and I'm like, I got the same fucking feedback again, which is keep doing what you're doing, but be softer, but also be less direct, but also keep achieving your results. It was such a fucking nightmare every time because I felt like I was having this identity crisis, and this was, why I started doing my own internal work because I know that my harmonizer 9 or my 4, I was so greatly half and half between the different selves. I'm gonna get shit done and I'm gonna crush it.
Right.
And I'm probably going to
And
be
even like,
direct. Probably going to be direct in doing that. And oh, by the way, I'm going to
yeah,
run through a wall for my people.
yeah,
Almost every manager I had was like, I don't know what to do with you.
yeah. I think that all those things can live within an Enneagram 3. The good manager, right? The protectiveness, the things. And my point more so is the feedback you're getting was like achieve the same results. Like keep doing what you're doing, but like, can you be more palatable? Right? Like, can you
Yes.
still
Yeah.
accomplish everything you're
Yes.
accomplishing, but like change the style in which you do it? And it's like, no, those two things go hand in hand. Like you cannot do one without the other, right? You can't like deliver this breakthrough business stuff that you were doing and like beat around the bush when you're having conversations with people that get easily offended. So
I like the word that you said. Like I was being asked to be more palatable because again, was I being a bitch? No, I was being a direct or assertive, and that just wasn't that wasn't received well in a lot of cases. And a lot of women didn't like it.
Yeah.
Achieve the same, but be nicer. That feels two-faced or something. It just doesn't feel good to me.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot say this is something that I have thought about like in my, dating chapter and stuff. It's like, oh, it would be great to have that kind of extroverted partner who's like talks to all the neighbors and knows what's going on in the neighborhood and, is connected to these people, right? Gets things done, all that stuff. And that same person is probably a talker and they will probably annoy me sometimes. And thinking about those two things exist in the same person. So if you want one thing, what else does it come along with? It's the same thing that was being done to you in corporate. It's like, we want your results, but we don't want the style that you use to achieve those results. And it's like, you just can't decouple those things, right? We don't think about that often. And certainly not when you're getting corporate feedback. It's like, you can't pick and choose parts of a person, right?
Drove me nuts. So speaking of being maybe uncomfortable, I want to read a post that you made. It's been a little bit a while now, but I vibe with it. It's tempting to think that all discomfort leads to growth, but that's not always true. Push yourself too little and you stay stuck. Push yourself too far and you risk overwhelm, shutdown, or reinforcing unhelpful patterns. The real growth happens in the learning zone, that middle ground where you're stretched beyond your comfort zone, but still able to stay grounded, breathe, and move forward. And it goes into one of your latest episodes at the time on your podcast. So tell us about the learning zone and more about what you're prefacing with this post.
So this is actually like, it's a adult learning theory. And basically we have a comfort zone, right? That's our inner circle. We have the learning zone, which is kind of the next circle out. And then we have the panic zone, right? Or the anxiety zone. That's the next level out. And you probably, and your listeners probably would relate to like understanding this from a nervous system standpoint. It's like the window of tolerance. And so we can expand our capacity to like we can expand what that learning zone is over time. But when we want to grow and change and learn and take risks, right? Like it does require some discomfort. And what inspired that episode was I was having a lot of conversations with a lot of people who were having a hard time bringing something up, saying no to people, challenging things, right? And so it's kind of this like people pleasery-esque behavior and running to like Chat GPT as an example to say, my sister did this and it hurt my feelings. Like, what do I say? And my kind of like, I don't know, push to people in that is you have to be able to just sit with, what do I want to say? How's it going to make me feel? Can I hold myself through that? Like, that's the discomfort piece of it. And that is where like that learning zone happens. It's like, if we don't push ourselves outside of our comfort zone ever, we're not going to evolve. And too far looks like you send yourself into fight or flight or freeze or fawn mode, where then you go into shutdown. And so having that discernment and like maybe taking baby steps into like more and more risk is like the way to kind of do that. And we just have to stay connected to ourselves through that process.
I was going to say, going back, getting so good at, and in my experience, this is where amazing coaches come in, where they can be a mirror for your authentic voice until you've practiced it enough where you hear it or feel it for yourself. I'm going to always mirror back to you your unique, authentic voice, which is likely not what you're used to hearing. And I share that because there's this discernment that comes in. Yes, make yourself available for things that make you uncomfortable. And also understand and discern when you are repeatedly putting yourself in these uncomfortable situations that actually you're not learning from, you just keep getting hurt from. Is
Yeah.
there any growth? Like, is there anything happening? Because I'll give you an example personally. There are certain people in my life that I know do not bring out the best version of me, that I struggle accessing my favorite self around. Are they people that I am willing to write off or go no contact with? No, not yet. Anyway, and also, do I have a time limit and or amount of like frequency in which I put myself in these? Absolutely. So that's my discernment right now. And at some point, I may go no contact, or at some point, I may have gotten enough of my personal healing that I'm able to feel neutral or access that favorite version of myself when I am around them and I say, fuck it. I'm just in the midst right now, but I get to decide that right now.
Yeah. And I think in that you kind of highlighted a little bit of how I think about it is like we can like discern maybe good discomfort from bad discomfort in
Mm.
a sense of if I am uncomfortable saying something to my sibling that actually would in the long run like improve our relationship or help me know that I've advocated for myself, like is that discomfort bringing me closer to like the person that I want to be and that I know I can be or that I know that I am? Or am I like now, working for this person as a contractor and like I feel like I'm taking abuse from them and, verbal abuse from them, like that discomfort, is that getting me closer to someone that I want to be? Is getting closer to someone who can like endure criticism and abuse like somebody that I want to be? No, actually, that's taking me farther away from, my own center and knowing what's right and wrong for me and setting boundaries and things like that. So it's thinking about, okay, is this discomfort pushing me closer to something that I want, right? To something that will serve me in the long run that's helpful for me versus is it just uncomfortable because I'm enduring something that isn't good for me?
Yeah, I like that discernment. Again, I'm a truth teller. I'm often going to poke the bear in situations. And I was in a social situation about a year ago where this acquaintance kept touching all of the women in the room, touching us a lot, not like outwardly on our breasts or anywhere else, but just touching, a lot of physical
Yeah.
touch. We didn't feel comfortable. And so one could say, okay, is it my responsibility to say something on behalf of the women? Maybe, maybe not. But me being me, I was like, oh, I'm gonna say something. So
Yeah.
I took him aside outside of the crowd as to protect his privacy. And I said, hey, many of us women feel uncomfortable with your lingering and copious amounts of touch. Ooh, he flew off the handle and it got real awkward real damn fast. And to the point where like I just ended up leaving. Some people were like, I was so in the wrong for saying something. I'm like, okay, you get to feel that way. But for me, I felt so strongly that I could not, no, it just was going to happen. So you can have your opinions. You're entitled to say like it wasn't my business. Great. I felt it was, and I said something.
Yeah. 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 It's like, how am I going to feel about this in 4 minutes, 4 days, or 4 years?
Oh,
Right.
I'm
Like,
I'm I'm really proud of myself.
yeah. And looking back 4 years ago, like, yes, absolutely. That's who you
Great.
should have been or wanted to be. And so, yeah, I do think that's do those things sometimes. Exactly.
Ah, so as we start to wind down, knowing that we're at this really interesting time in the workplace and society and general life, where maybe the old way of doing business and passing the baton from older generations to younger generations has a little bit of a breakdown right now because Gen Z and Gen Alpha and Millennial are not willing to take on the same beholdenness or forsakenness that maybe older generations were willing to do or take on in the workplace. What would you say to the different generations, maybe each generation in the workplace, knowing that they're likely coming upon this crux of people not wanting to move into the higher management roles because they're not willing to take on some of the things that older generations were maybe willing to take on?
My perspective on this is yes, and kind of what you said. I also think we're in a place where boomers are not giving up, they're not passing the baton. And so that's part of our problem. They are holding on to that baton for dear life because they don't have any identity outside of their work or the power that they hold, their positions that they're in, or whatever. Right. And so they're clinging to that baton. And so there will come a point where they do have to pass it on because they will be too old to work or whatever, right? I think millennials are in a very unique position to have like one foot on each side of the line to understand how to operate within the system and to see the ways that operating within those systems without discernment, without self-connection, without well-being, a well-being focus is harmful. So I think millennials are in the unique position to see what needs to happen and also see what can change. And then I think like Gen Z is in this position to continue to like self advocate for what is right for you, but I do think there's a little bit of a self-advocacy and career is important, and having a focus on like, where do you want to go? And so do you have to say like, I am beholden to a company, I'm going to give the company everything? Absolutely not. That's a problem. It's problematic. And you also get to say like, what can I come in and gain from this experience? But knowing that for that temporary amount of time, there has to be some value that you're also adding, right? And so balancing that a little bit to say, you can make your career whatever you want. You can create this mosaic and this beautiful puzzle of like all the pieces and bring that together. And when you work at an organization, like you get paid to contribute, right? So like just thinking about holding that balance a little bit, I think they're doing wonders for us in saying what's in it for me. And they can kind of say like, okay, and how do I like make the most of this experience by contributing, but learning through that contribution.
Shout out to the millennials holding our fingers in the dam.
Truly, there's a
With
lot of weight and pressure.
in the workplace and life in general. Like millennials are the ones that understand Alpha and Z, but also X and Boomer. Like we're in the middle.
Yeah.
Where can we find you and support your work, Sandhya?
My website is selfatwork.com. So you can see kind of my team offerings or coaching or things like that. And then my podcast is called Working Your Way. You can find us on YouTube, on all of the audio platforms, and also obviously on my website. So
Closing remarks as we wrap up.
That's a hard one. I've never been at a loss for words, Amy. I think for me right now, it's just continuing on this path of having less so I could do more. And to me, that looks like not trying to do everything all at once, simplifying, knowing where everything is in my home and knowing what I really want to focus on, and just going much bigger with those fewer things.
Thank you, Sandhya.
Thank you.